And so I was just like, you know what? I'm going to take the plunge and then believe in myself, invest in myself.
Yep.
And that's really what started it.
Hello and welcome to the Neighborhood Money Podcast, a video podcast here to help you grow your financial knowledge and build a life you deserve. If you are new here in the neighborhood, my name is Kevin and that is Drew on the other side of the screen. And we are your
Hello.
co-hosts of the Neighborhood Money Podcast. Drew, how's it going, man?
It's going good. I'm pretty pumped up for the interview we have going on today. A little bit different pace, I would have to say. We've always had kind of these personal finance topics and interviews going on. This one is going to be still on the entrepreneurial side, but a lot about our diets. And being the new year, everybody's trying to figure out a new diet and probably hitting the gym. This could be perfect.
Absolutely. So we have Alaine Keogh from Alaine Keogh Nutrition in the neighborhood talking to us. Very excited to get that episode out to you guys. Also, make sure you stick around to after the episode where we have our money minute, and then we'll get into our what's going on in the neighborhood to wrap up the episode. But Drew, let's dive right into the conversation with Alaine Keogh from Alaine Keogh Nutrition.
Let's go.
Coming into the neighborhood this week is Alaine Keogh, a metabolism dietitian and owner of Alaine Keogh Nutrition, where her goal is to fire up your metabolism to help you reach your goals without being restrictive, help you feel energized, and make sure you continue to enjoy your life. Alaine, I am so excited to have you here in the neighborhood studio with me and Drew. You know, I got to be totally honest. Hannah, my wife, and I love your TikTok and your Instagram and all of the tips that you guys or that you have out there. Specifically the sweet potato toast. I think we have that probably like 3 or 4 times a week ever since we saw that video. But so excited to have you here to talk to us all about what you're doing in your nutrition business and all of that good stuff. How's it going?
That is very kind of you. I'm super excited to be here. So thank you for having me. Today's been going well. Thank you.
Going back to the sweet potato toast, what the heck is that?
It's so good. I actually haven't made it in a while.
So
thank
good.
you for reminding. It's just you can make it however you want. I think you guys make it in little tiny bite-sized pieces.
It's almost like a silver dollar size.
Okay.
Perfect for kids.
Yes.
So I like to slice my sweet potatoes to look like toast, and then you just stick it in the toaster until it's cooked through, and you can top it with whatever you want.
So you just like mash up sweet potato, like cook them, mash them up, and
No mashing involved.
oh, nice.
So you can think of it as like your slice of toast.
Okay, so you just cut the sweet potato and then put it in the toaster.
Yep, and then you put peanut butter on top, or you can do avocado toast.
Maybe some marshmallow sauce.
That sounds delicious.
Peanut butter and salt is my favorite. I'm not going to lie. So Alaine, you're a dietitian, but I'm curious as how you got to where you are today. What motivated you to pursue your career and really dedicate your life to helping others live a healthier life through both their diet and as well as exercising?
I learned pretty young, like maybe in high school or middle school, I took a community ed course on nutrition. And they did a lot of talking about eating, natural foods and trying to stay away from processed things, and that fat isn't bad, it's not scary. So that's kind of what kick-started my interest in nutrition. And so then going into college and figuring out what I wanted to do for the rest of my life, it was like a pretty easy decision. When I was looking at schools, I wanted to make sure that it had a nutrition program, so that was a big factor in where I went.
Okay.
I was also very big into like fitness and exercise when I was in high school. I played sports growing up. And so learning about how food can really impact your fitness ability and how you feel on a day-to-day basis was also another big factor of why I was so interested in it. And then just learning about all like the different supplements that people use when they're exercising, or like how athletes maintain their peak fitness through nutrition. All of that kind of drove me into the direction of mostly wanting to be a dietitian so that I can help people with overall wellness and like disease prevention.
So when you were in college and you kind of had this spark for that, did you kind of, I guess, like were you kind of trial and error with like your diets? Like when you had a class on, say, some nutrition and you're like, you know what, I want to try that for like a month? Or did you kind of like trial and error work your way to what you're doing now? I guess I don't know how to exactly say it.
That's a good question. So I will say it took me a while for it to really resonate that like nutrition is so key in your overall wellness. And so to be honest with you, I knew that like calories mattered,
Mm-hmm.
protein matters, um, and that, in order to like lose weight or maintain weight or gain weight, there's that energy deficit or surplus that you need.
Sure.
And so that was kind of where my focus was in school. I did have to follow a few like special diets going through school. One was a really low sodium diet for hypertension.
Okay.
It was really difficult. So it was really eye-opening,
That
especially
would be
now.
difficult.
Yeah, I work with patients also. I'm a clinical dietitian in addition to owning a business. And so I work with a lot of patients who need to watch their salt. And so knowing how difficult it is makes me a better teacher too. So I had to do
Okay.
that. But then I also had to follow a low FODMAP diet. Have you ever heard of that
No.
before?
Never.
What's
That
that?
one's pretty tough. It's basically avoiding all these different types of sugars in fruits and vegetables and different foods.
Okay.
So you're eating a very restrictive diet. And so I did that for only a couple of days and it was really difficult.
So pretty much say not every fruit and vegetable is good.
Just for that one diet.
Okay.
It's a specific diet for like a digestion disorder. So you don't have to worry about fruit. Don't worry.
I think Hannah would tell me to go more towards that low sodium because I love putting salt on almost everything when I cook.
Same.
And she always tells me like, hey, let's hold off on that just a little bit. I'm like, do you want it to be bland or do you want it to taste fantastic?
I put salt on my salt, and then I need to drink a pitcher of water after my meals.
Yeah, I have some patients who do that too.
So Alaine, your approach to weight loss, dieting, and living a healthier lifestyle is really completely different than what you would typically see from weight loss programs like Keto, Atkins, and Weight Watchers. And you talk a lot about having a balanced life, both in what you eat and then actually how you exercise and move your body. Mm-hmm. What are some major hurdles people have when it comes to living a healthier life through both their diet? And do you have any tips to help them get over those hurdles?
Oh yeah, I can think of a few. I think one overarching hurdle that kind of can trickle its way down into other hurdles is really just a lack of education. Not to offend anybody, but you may not know as much about nutrition as you think. I mean, a lot of people might say, okay, chicken and broccoli is healthy and pizza and cheeseburgers are unhealthy. But I think the main thing that you need to know is why. Why do you say that? Why do you think that? What happens in your body when you eat each of those different items to make you say one is bad and one is good? And so learning more about nutrition, working with a dietitian can really help you figure out what's going to work best for you. Other things that lack of education kind of trickles down into is all the misinformation on the internet. So you might see someone had really good success on a keto diet. They lost X amount of pounds in a month or 2 months, and you think, okay, well, I want to lose weight too, so I'm going to try the keto diet. But that person might have a totally different set of preferences, lifestyle, habits, all these things that made the keto diet work for them, where it may not work the same for you. So that's where, it takes kind of an expert to help you learn what's going to be most beneficial for you and how you're going to see success. The other thing
is really individualistic and depending on the type of person and what their needs are.
Not one size fits all.
Exactly. Not one size fits all.
Yep.
And another thing that I think a lot of people struggle with is time. They think it takes a lot of time to eat a healthy diet, or it takes a lot of money to eat a healthy diet. Mm-hmm. And if you are able to, sit down and do a little bit of research, you can figure out, okay, well, this protein's on sale this week, or planning out your meals in advance can really help you figure out how much you're spending on your healthy diet and make sure that you're not spending too much. And then it also cuts down on time because you're not spending every single day prepping a new meal.
As this is a personal finance podcast, there's a lot of people out there that do have financial stresses, and that can from time to time lead to overeating or things like that. Do you have any tips and tricks that can really help someone, whether it's, financial stress or any type of stress that someone can use, or steps that they can go through to, have some sort of activity rather than, sticking your hand into the cookie jar for the fourth time in an hour?
Especially after the holidays.
Stress eating? Is that what you're talking about?
Absolutely. Yeah. Do you have any like tips around like, is there something that someone can do if their stress relief is eating and they have found
Mhm.
that it's very challenging to overcome that?
That's a really good question. I think that there are a number of things that they can start with. One is making sure that their diet in general is pretty well balanced and they're not, really relying on a lot of sugar heavy items because really the more sugar you eat, the more you're going to crave sugar. So that may be
Mm,
part of it where it's kind of a comfort food. It's become a taste that you really like. Your blood
gotcha.
sugar goes up when you eat sugar and that, gives you energy. But then what happens is your blood sugar comes down pretty quickly and you crave more sugar because your body thinks you need that for the energy. So trying to really just get a good hold on your diet in general can help with some of those cravings. And then also trying not to keep stuff like that really at easy access. That's kind of more of a reactive approach, whereas the first tip is more of a proactive approach. But just trying to make it more of a treat to have something sweet or going out for ice cream as opposed to having it in your freezer ready to go at easy, reachable distance.
You seem very, very passionate about what you're doing. What kind of gave you or what was like the decision maker for you to kind of start this side hustle of yours, or is this your full time job?
Not yet.
Not yet, but
Hopefully
hoping.
someday. No, it's not my full-time job yet. I still work in a hospital setting too,
Okay,
which is rewarding in its own way. But I honestly wanted to start a business for like 4 or 5 years before I
really?
actually did it. And it just took believing in myself. Hiring a coach helped me a lot to kind of figure out, okay, how am I going to do this?
What type of
Um,
coach?
a business
Oh,
coach. It was
business
somebody
coach.
who is also a
Gotcha.
dietitian who started their own practice.
Okay.
So it took me, like I said, years to finally decide that this is the right route to take. And
Mm-hmm.
part of it is that I had mentioned earlier that some of my passion is more in like the wellness, proactive, preventative care, and
Mm-hmm.
that you don't get a lot of that in healthcare, which is okay. It's just how it
Yeah.
is. You're more reacting to a disease versus hoping to
Yep.
prevent disease. So I really wanted to get more into the proactive side of things and help people stay healthy when they already are healthy and
Mm-hmm.
help them feel better, lose fat if that is part of their preference, and maintain that fat loss as well as live longer.
So with this this business coach that you had, was it the help of them saying like one day you're setting out goals and on this day you're gonna make the first step forward, or is it you kind of had everything concluded with this coach and then maybe you had a goal in your mind saying by 2021 I want to start this by starting my first maybe Instagram post.
Kind of both.
Okay.
What happened was I saw basically that this person was taking clients, and I was like,
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to start a business for years.
Yeah.
So if I'm going to do it, I'm going to want to work with somebody who's done it and is successful at it.
Yeah.
And so I was just like, you know what? I'm going to take the plunge and then believe in myself, invest in myself.
Yep.
And that's really what started it. So she helped coach me through like the initial phase of opening my business.
Okay.
So since then, I've actually hired a different coach, and she's been working
Mm.
with me currently, and she's been really helpful in like maintaining the momentum.
Is there anything that you've really enjoyed so far with the process, or is there some side of that you just really dread? Is it like the bookkeeping and like the compliance stuff, just dread it, but absolutely love
Yeah.
connecting one on one with people?
That's another really good question. I love connecting one-on-one with people. That's like my favorite part is working with clients, and I talk to them every other week. And so, we talk the first week, and then 2 weeks later, I get to see what progress has been made, what we still need to work on. And so, throughout the program, it's just been really fun to see how people's mindset even shifts, even more so
Cool.
than just like physical changes. So, all of that has been super rewarding. I really loved that. Some of the less desirable components would be, yeah, like the back end stuff that people
Hmm.
don't get to see on social media,
Hmm.
clients don't see, just kind of like logistical stuff that it has to get done, but isn't the most fun. I would say it working full time and then also having a business has been a challenge. It's been really rewarding. So it's
Mm.
not that, I regret it in any way,
Yep.
but it has been really challenging. So that's part of why I have a coach, is to help keep me moving along and making
Sure.
sure that, this thing that I'm so passionate about isn't something that like fades away just because I have
Yeah.
other priorities too.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting that you're saying that. I know Cav and I, even with just this podcast, it's like not monetized or anything yet, but it's kind of that labor of love that hopefully turns into something more. But it's kind of us having conversations at 8:30 at night, or we've had midnight ones, and we both losing an interview the other week, and then we're like, we got to figure something out for this week, and just kind of those. It is kind of interesting that those little challenges on the back end, and being more of a side hustle to start off with, there is that, being able to be 100% committed at your work when you're there, but then when you're away from work, making sure you can find time and kind of doing some more work.
Totally.
So, Elaine, your coaching, like I kind of mentioned a little bit earlier, is basically the antithesis of the dieting industry, where your coach or where you coach firing up your metabolism to help people lose weight and make sure that they don't need to take out foods out of their life that they don't want to, and they can continue to enjoy things that they want to eat. Can you tell us a little bit how you get your clients, your clients' metabolism firing up, and what does it look like to work one-on-one with you?
Oh yeah, great question. Yeah, so I like to say that, I help clients, but I'm teaching them the whole time. I'm,
Hmm.
providing them with the education that they need to carry forward for the rest of their lives, which is one component I think a lot of diet things fall short on, is they might tell you to do something. They don't tell you why you're doing
Yeah.
it.
Mm.
Or they might be overly restrictive too. But I want that to be like such a huge component, is that I'm teaching you what I know, so that, in however many months or years when we're not working together, you can still continue to use my recommendations and make them work for you, so that you can maintain the healthy lifestyle that we created together.
Mm.
So there are four or so components that I really focus on. Of course, the first being nutrition,
Hmm.
and making sure that people are eating enough food and not necessarily restricting their diet so much. Making sure, especially, that they're eating enough protein. That's a big one. It's the most satisfying nutrient, macronutrient, I should say. And it also helps you build muscle, heal tissues. It's working in your body at all times to help your tissues function.
Hmm.
So protein is big. A lot of people don't eat enough protein, depending on the person. I'm sure you guys eat plenty of protein. Um,
It's my favorite.
yeah,
I try
same.
to.
Yeah, and it's something that you really need to get in throughout the day in order to meet your goals, your protein goals. So we set goals for protein, and we set goals for fiber, at least at first, and then we can kind of work on the other macronutrients. So I like to start slow, so that, you're not making a whole overhaul diet change all at once, and so that it makes it a lot more sustainable and maintainable.
Mm.
Um, so fiber being something that is obviously really good for your gut, but it also has a lot of other benefits in the body. It can help slow down how fast glucose is absorbed in your bloodstream. So making sure you're getting fiber at every meal can also be very beneficial. Most people in America don't eat enough fiber, so that's another thing that's really big.
Okay.
So those two would be kind of the first we work on and talk about as far as nutrition goes. The other components include maintaining a regular sleep pattern, getting in exercise, and I want it to be exercise that my client enjoys, but I also do push strength training, because muscle will increase your metabolic rate.
So here's a question. As you're talking through this, it's making me think. So I'm like a new dad, and we have a kid that's 2 months old. Is there like any? Do you ever work with people like post pregnancy, or is there any big tips that you have for mothers? Like I know you're talking about having sleep is a really good one, but maybe the first couple months of a baby stage you're not getting as much sleep. Is there any tips that you do for pregnant or post pregnant women?
That's a good question. First of all, congrats on your new baby.
Thank you.
That's awesome. I haven't worked with women postpartum. I actually am working with somebody who is hoping to become pregnant soon, and just kind of getting her body in like an optimal nutrition and wellness state so that she can fuel herself and her baby when she does become pregnant.
Okay.
So as far as postpartum, I
Yeah.
definitely wouldn't be focusing at all necessarily on like the fat loss, but definitely just making sure that you're nourishing your body
Okay.
so that you can be, as energized as you can with lack of sleep
Yep.
for your baby, and make sure that they're getting what they need to.
And
So
really boosting up the protein after, you think, or
you should be eating more protein during pregnancy, so I would
okay.
just probably maintain that same
Okay.
amount. Yeah. But yeah, boosting protein, making sure that you're getting enough, I would say, throughout the day to
Mm-hmm.
maintain your energy levels when you have a baby. I'm sure
Yep.
energy levels are kind of like up and down. So yeah, protein helps stabilize that so you're not like spiking and then dropping, like I was talking about with sugar before.
Sure.
So yeah, protein, um, making sure that you're eating enough, trying to get, sleep when you can. I know it's really tough,
Mm-hmm.
but doing the best you can with that. And figuring out how to manage stress. That's one thing that I also work with clients
Okay.
on is stress management. So if there's anything that both of you can do to kind of like give yourself even just like 5-minute
Mm-hmm.
de-stress time, that would probably be more beneficial than you might even think.
And just have her not Googling every little thing. because
Yeah, maybe
Google's
just
like,
like a
hey,
plan.
if your baby burps, that means you're dying.
Block WebMD on your computers.
Block it.
Can you kind of summarize those 4 pillars?
The pillars are more nutrition.
Okay.
The first one. Movement is the second. Strength training being kind of emphasized there. And then I guess more of a third one. I encompass both sleep and stress management into one, which is kind of like the rest and like giving your body what it needs to calm down and just kind of chill out so that it can
Nice.
do what you are hoping it to do.
Yeah, that's awesome. One thing I thought was pretty interesting is this concept, and maybe it's pretty familiar, but it was the first time I've ever actually heard about it, but the concept of NEAT activity. Can you
Oh,
tell us a
yeah.
little bit about that? Because, I was watching some of your Instagrams and you were talking about NEAT, and I'm like, hey, that's pretty neat.
Isn't it? Yeah. So there are 4 things that impact your metabolism or your metabolic rate, I should say. There's the one we all think about is like the exercise activity, and that, makes up a certain chunk of your energy expenditure. More if you are more active, less if you're less active, of course. There's the thermogenesis of food, which is kind of a smaller percentage. Your basal metabolic rate takes up the largest chunk, and that's just what your body burns doing absolutely nothing. So when you're sleeping or when you're just sitting, not doing anything, just like the baseline energy needs for your body is the BMR. So the fourth one then is NEAT, which is what you were talking about, the non-exercise activity thermogenesis. And that can really fluctuate as far as the percentage of your calorie burn from like pretty little to pretty significant, like somewhere in the 20% range. So it could actually even make up more of the fraction than your exercise activity. So if you can just like get up whenever you can, walk around, maybe take the dogs for a walk, mow the lawn, rake leaves, all of that stuff is contributing to this NEAT category. So it's not something you're thinking about like structured exercise. It's just all of the movement that you do throughout the day added up.
There's a lot of that in Minnesota with the shoveling and these 3 feet of snow. It's been nonstop
Yes.
snowing in northern Minnesota this year. And it's like, oh, I guess I'm going to be getting a lot of NEAT this year.
That's a good thing.
That is a good thing, yeah. I feel like my back's even getting stronger now.
Oh, good. Yeah. Shoveling is hard work, honestly.
I know, and then I like it when it's a little bit more clean. So it's like shoveling, I like to use it instead of using the snow blower, because then there's always like the tire marks and everything. I'm like, I'll just break my back instead so I can have some clean sidewalks.
Gotta use your legs.
Yeah. Not all back in a fast jerking motion.
Please don't do that.
So I know ever since I started working from home, I definitely need to focus more on my needs. So I'm definitely appreciate all that advice because I think ever since working from home, I work probably step like 1,500 steps a day, and
Okay.
it is not great on my physical activity or my health. But with that being said, Alaine, each person that we have on the podcast, we like to ask these last two questions. And the first one is very similar to dieting or weight loss management. You can't really just cut out everything out of your diet because like you've been saying, if you're too restrictive, then there's a good chance that you're going to fall back and potentially lose any of your gains. It's very similar in the personal finance space, right? Where if you've got a plan and you completely restrict yourself of certain things in your life, it's going to be really hard to stay on that progress going forward. Mm-hmm. But everyone has their own financial vice, what we'll call it, or their own guilty pleasure that, depending on where you are in life, it's still something that you really enjoy spending money on. And it's something that you're not willing to give up, even if it does make you feel guilty from time to time. So what is your financial vice, or what is your guilty pleasure if you have one?
Oh, that's a good question. Couple things coming to mind. I would say, this is something COVID has definitely put a damper on. But before COVID, I would say kind of more generally, maybe experiences, but more specifically, concerts.
Okay.
Because I just feel like I love live music. I love the connection that I have with like the friends that I go with. And it's always a really fun time. So usually, if I love the band, I'm in like alignment with the activity, I'm super excited about it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm willing to pay a good amount to see an artist that I'm really excited
Nice.
about.
What type of music do you like?
I like a lot of different types of music. I've seen mostly like country concerts,
Okay.
but I mean, I'm up for whatever. I like, just your standard top 40 stuff. I've seen a ton of country,
Yep.
but you know what? Anything that anybody's interested in, I'm there for.
I want to go to kind of on the bucket list. I want to go to an Eric Church concert for sure, and then I
Yeah.
want to go to a Morgan Wallen one. I've been on a big Morgan Wallen kick lately.
I have seen Eric Church.
How was he?
He was great. I saw him at WeFest. This was a long time ago.
I never made my way to WeFest. I always wanted to.
You have to be a certain, I don't know, energy level to make it at WeFest. It was a good time, but
I think
don't
I could have had
go
the
back.
energy level.
I don't think you have the energy level after having a kid, though, there, Drew.
No, we didn't. But it was always at like the end of the summer, and it was either the week training camp started for football or the week before. So I played collegiate football, and so I didn't want to put my body through WeFest and then go to training camp, so I always passed on.
Fair enough.
So, Alaine, our final question that we have for you here today is something that Drew and I share each and every week with our listeners. And it's our segment that we call What's Going On in Your Neighborhood. And it's a way for our listeners to get a little bit more information about us, get to know us a little bit better. And typically we don't even talk anything about personal finance, even though this is a personal finance podcast. So what's going on in your neighborhood? Where can people go and look up all the great stuff that you're doing with your nutrition business?
So I'm on Instagram. That's where most of my content and connection will be found. My Instagram is the same as my business, Alaine Keogh Nutrition. So you can find me there. And if you have questions, you can absolutely send me a message or comment on any of my posts. And I'm always happy to make that connection and help anybody with their nutrition journey. Right now, I am looking for 2 to 3 clients to work with for 6 months, which is longer than I have been working with my clients, to really get down their wellness and nutrition goals and see the changes that they want to see over 6 months. And I am really excited about that because I think 6 months is a great period of time to work on changes that you can maintain for a lifetime versus just doing like a 30-day or 60-day program.
Okay.
So I'm really excited to find these 2 to 3 clients and start working with them.
Awesome. Anything else going on in your neighborhood on the personal side?
On the personal
Any
side,
concerts going to or anything?
to be honest, I actually haven't been to a concert since the pandemic. So I am itching to get out there. So no, the other more exciting piece is I just bought a house.
Hey, congrats.
Nice.
So I
Awesome.
have been real busy with all the fun sewer
Oh,
payments, getting that fixed, and running electricity to the garage.
and
And
something always breaking.
oh yeah, I luckily I haven't had anything unexpected, but crossing my fingers.
So if there's
Just saying that
any
out loud.
if there's any advice that the Neighborhood Money podcast can give is start building an emergency fund. So if anything happens, you can go into it.
When things happen,
Yep.
because they will.
When they have.
Well,
That's good
Elaine,
advice.
it was so fun to have you on the podcast here today. We greatly appreciate you taking your time to share all the good stuff that you're doing with your nutrition business. And we'll be sure to link all of your stuff out on our Instagram when we
Yep.
release this episode. But like I said, it was so much fun, and thank you so much for being on the podcast.
Yep.
Yeah, I
Thank
really
you.
enjoyed this conversation. Thank you so much for having me.
Drew, as we were talking to Elaine, a lot of the times there are so many similarities between your relationship with your diet and your relationship with your money and your financial plan. But it was such a great conversation with Elaine. She touched on so many different things about being better with your diet, boosting, firing up your metabolism, and not just completely restricting what you eat and really truly enjoying your diet and making sure that you keep the things in that you like. What would you say some of the key takeaways were from the conversation with Elaine?
Well, one of my key takeaways is just on the entrepreneurial side. It's, Elaine was kind of talking that's something she's always wanted to do is kind of start her own business. And she was thinking about it for 4 or 5 years. And she finally decided to take a step, and that was with, kind of getting a support group and a direction with a business coach. And I think that is a
Hmm.
pretty cool thing that she knows she wanted to be a dietitian. She knows she wanted to start a business, didn't know where to start. And it's just part of that process where you can go out for help and it's okay. You don't need to do everything on your own. And she already is starting to, it seems like building a team around her. And that is
Right.
helping give her a little bit more of that support group and then more confidence to move on and keep doing this business of hers.
Working with that coach kind of got her to that level of pushing off and starting that business, right? She What did
Mhm.
she say? She wanted to start this business for 5 or so years and then
Yep.
finally took the plunge because she had that support system, which is so important to have that support system around you, whether you're an individual entrepreneur or you're doing a partnership with someone, whatever it might be. Having that partner, having that coach, that reliability partner
Yep.
to really help you kickstart your journey and really take that next step, that almost that leap of faith
Yep.
into building a business, I think was a really great takeaway that Elaine gave us. Drew, if I'm going to add something to the key takeaways, is I just thought it was so amazing how similar, like I said just a couple minutes ago, how similar dieting or your diet and managing your money can actually be. I know Elaine talked a lot about not being restrictive in your diet and, finding that you need to eat proteins and fibers and having a healthy balance
Yep.
in your diet. Well, it's so similar when you think about building your financial plan. You can go all gung ho where you're not going out to eat, you're not spending extra money, you're putting everything towards savings, towards retirement, towards investing.
Yep.
It's really hard to maintain that over the long term. Whereas if you allow yourself some grace and you allow yourself some wiggle room to spend money on concerts, like Elaine said, or if going out to eat, it's your financial vice, whatever it might be, if you allow yourself a little bit of wiggle room, you're more than likely to hit those long term goals than completely putting your head down and restricting so much out of your life.
It's a very interesting parallel, really. I mean, she even was adding in just being educated about your diet, and it's so true with your personal finances. Is you want to be educated, and not only your debits and credits or like your inflow and outflow of money
Right.
in your
Yep. Yep.
household, but how to make your money work for you, and just constantly making sure that you can be educated on it, as well as making new habits and changing the way you do
Mm.
things. With the diet,
Hmm.
it's you have to look at things differently. You have to be consistent with them, and you want to be able
Right.
to make that change be, second nature to you, where you just constantly are eating healthier or you're constantly making the sound financial decision.
She also talked about starting slow and building up over time. where it's so similar in your financial life. Start slow, build that plan, and then just work it
You
all
know,
the way through.
right at the end when she said she just bought a new house, congrats again, Elaine. That's awesome. But we even talk about maybe starting an emergency fund, and having an emergency fund for a brand new homeowner, I believe it can be very important, and it's just starting slow as well. That emergency fund can just be putting $10 away a month, or you want to build it up to $100. So now when say like a faucet has a leak in it, you need to get an extra part, you have that money there that you're not scrambling for. So just being able to, have an emergency fund and start that slow. It doesn't have to be the 6 months or a couple months worth of money, but start small and then slowly build it up.
All right, Drew, let's check out what we've got this week for Money Minute.
If you're a business owner, freelancer, or independent contractor, you're wondering, how do I pay my taxes, or when do I pay my taxes? The term estimated tax is that quarterly payment that you would make. For some of you, you may not have your taxes automatically taken out of your income. You're no longer a W-2 employee, so you need to figure out how you can still pay the government taxes. These come in the form of an estimated quarterly tax. Estimated taxes include your interest income, your dividend income, capital gains, or rental income. You as a taxpayer at the end of the year will still file your normal tax return, and then that's when you'll be able to see if you have your reimbursement or you actually have to pay more into the taxes. The due dates for these estimated taxes are April 15th, June 15th, September 15th, and January 15th of the following year. And that's the estimated tax.
So, Drew, another week and then another what's going on in your neighborhood. So what's been going on over in the Nori residence this past week?
Well, this week was another pretty slow week in the Nori household. We took down Christmas decorations finally. It was, took a couple days, but we finally got around to it. We planned it out, and it was, well, I would say this year took a little bit longer having a baby than previous years. I think previous years we might have everything done and down and I don't know, maybe an hour or two. And this one took about half a day or maybe a full day.
Well, I was going to say a pretty slow week plus having a new baby, right? So
Yeah.
it's not that slow at the end of the day. So
yeah, we
you got to
still
give
kept
yourself
busy.
a little bit of credit.
Yeah, we still kept ourselves busy that way, but really outside of that, nothing too super crazy, just Christmas decorations and I don't know, just trying to cook some dinners. That's about it. And nothing was really that crazy for dinners. Nothing was too crazy.
Do you guys do a real tree or do you guys have a fake tree?
Fake tree. And it
man,
still has a
sometimes
lot
I'm
of
so
leaves.
jealous of people that have fake trees because we always do a real tree, and getting that thing out is like the absolute worst. Because by the time you remove it, it's kind of like whittling down. You get pine needles all over your house. This year, actually, so our garbage service picks up the trees and recycling service picks up the trees for us.
Mm-hmm.
The wind had blown it across our driveway, so like needles were everywhere. It was just a hot mess. And so sometimes I'm just like, man, is it really worth getting that real tree each and every year when the fake tree can just make your life so much easier?
Yep. I think the real tree is too much work for me, but I have to say the fake trees, you still get some of those little needles that fall, but it's not even close to what a real tree would do.
Yeah, I mean, our floor just looked like it was like covered like a forest almost in just pine needles.
So outside of my boring life, anything exciting happen in yours?
No, I mean, I think it's always like this post holiday break, right? It's kind of slows down a little bit. You kind of get back into the normal sea of life.
Yeah.
But with that, I will say that we have listened to the Frozen soundtrack in the Stackville household on repeat for the last week. And I do like Frozen quite a bit. But Drew, did you know they only have like 4 or 5 songs that actually have words to them? Like I was kind of thrown off by that. I thought it was like mostly words, but I guess you just kind of have a couple of big hitters that everyone knows.
So when you've just been listening to this album on repeat, has it only been the ones with words or even the ones with no words?
Yeah. So we get through like the first 4 or 5 songs, and then there's like a remake of Let It Go, and our son is always like, I don't like this song. I don't like this song. So then we just start it over again. And so we listen to like 5 songs on repeat.
And then you try
majority of the day.
And then you try going to bed and then just let it snow in your head the whole time.
It is just all the time, constantly Frozen in this household. And it's actually not Frozen. He calls it the Olaf song or Olaf music because he
Oh,
loves Olaf.
is that the Snowman?
Yep.
I'm sure I'll get to be watching those pretty soon here too. But I think I saw that movie. I think I saw that movie like once, and that Snowman I remember as being pretty funny.
It's
That
a good movie. I'm
was
not
there a
gonna lie. I
horse?
actually
Is there like a horse in that? That's pretty funny too.
there's a reindeer, Sven. But unpopular opinion, most likely, I think the second Frozen is better than the first.
I have not seen the second Frozen.
I'm telling you, it's
You know,
good.
I have
It's a
not
game
seen
changer.
the second Frozen, but I would have to say that there's almost no good sequels. So I might, that could be a very unpopular opinion.
I'm guessing it is, but I will stick my stake in the ground and stay firm to my belief that Frozen 2 is better than the first one.
Well, I can tell you we didn't watch Frozen, but here in northern Minnesota, and then even for you, I'm sure, it's definitely frozen outside, and I feel frozen. So, and it's just like another week of the podcast. I'm in the basement. It's still a little chilly, but that's all right. I think with all that said, I might have to go warm up with a little cup of coffee or cocoa.
Nice.
And if anybody wants to join me next week in the neighborhood, they for sure can. So we will catch you guys next week with another episode. We got some exciting interviews coming up. Just want to appreciate you guys listening. If there's anything or anyone you'd like to listen to, please let us know. And we'll see you guys next week in the neighborhood.